All right, so this is the end of month 6 in attempting to now write a book. I kind of stopped doing the weekly updates after month 5 because I ran out of things to do. My goal at week 1 had been to do 10 hours of work towards this project per week. And now I think, and I haven't added it up, but I think in the last month, since month 5, I've done 10 hours. So I've now done 10 hours in a month instead of a week. And I don't think that's going to change much from here on out. So I kind of think for myself, as for updating, just so I can look back in this, that it's not really going to change much. I'm just going to do maybe a monthly thing. So which is disappointing. Again, I think my biggest holdup is I need to get into the Kent State archive so that I can get what they have to kind of build the framework of this story. I've done, I think, close to 20 interviews, but I feel that the interviews aren't going to write the story. They're going to embellish the story, maybe tell it a little bit better once I have that framework. But trying to piece together the story just from what people try to remember from 30 or 40 years ago isn't really going to help me. So I think I've only done 1 or 2 interviews in this last month. Even that kind of dried up. My list is kind of at its end. I actually did pick up a couple more, so we'll see if that happens in the next week or 2. But that's really about it, unfortunately. It is a bit disappointing, but I think all things considered, so this is July of 2020. There was kind of a reopening of a lot of states, and including Ohio, over this last month, and it's obviously had dire consequences, so everything's getting worse. So even the anticipated reopening of the university, as far as I've been able to gather, the Kent State Special Collections don't know what they're going to do. How can they accommodate anybody in their facility given all of the new requirements that exist? And I don't blame them. I mean, obviously this is pretty low on the priority list for anybody is trying to tell this story. So I'm just going to focus on what I can do, which is going to be interviews and I guess maybe a little bit more work on that. You know, I've started editing down the interviews, so cutting out the extra material, which would be just kind of me, just general banter between myself and whoever I'm interviewing, which has nothing to do with the actual interview. So that when Special Collections is available, that I can take these recordings and just drop them off, or however I can get them into their hands, and that'll be done. And I'm doing a little bit of follow-up with releases for that. I know some people have been busy, and so I realized that I haven't had releases signed for some of the interviews that I've done, so I've been following up with that. So that's going to be about it. I think at this point I'll be lucky if I do 10 hours in the next month, unless there's some sort of breakthrough that I have on something that I feel is constructive towards the final product. Because honestly, even the interviews, you know, there's something I can get out of that, but I still don't feel that, you know, it's going to be the bulk of this story. Or at least, you know, the main source for this material. So a little bit I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. While it's work, how much of it's going to end up in the final product, it's going to be, you know, probably a minimal amount. And then really the question is that at the end of this, when this eventually is done, which now may be a year or more later, what's going to be the status of the marketplace on trying to find someone to publish this. Like obviously there's always the self-publishing route, but I'm a little bit more interested in trying to find a publisher to work with to, you know, fine-tune the product into something that is good for publishing and hopefully use their resources to try to get it in the market where it can find an audience. Self-publishing, you know, it's I'm not a writer by trade, so I feel like I need to rely on someone else to kind of maybe polish it at the end. And the publisher for my one and only book that I co-authored before this, which was about the history of the Kent State Airport, which I have here. Yeah, there it is. Hearing from the marketing gentleman at that publishing house, he says that from what they've been able to tell, the industry at this point, again, middle of summer, or beginning of summer really, 2020, that book sales are down like 65% or something like that. So I gotta feel there's gonna be a cascading fallout from that, even if it leads to publishers going away, and less publishers are probably going to be more gun shy about taking on any project. So I'm going to assume that I'm going to have an audience for this at some point, and I'm going to move forward with that assumption. But it's just a little disappointing knowing that I could invest, hundreds and hundreds of hours on something that I may get to the end and that's it. So I guess if I can't find anything, I'll, self-publishing is always there. But yeah, so that's the state of things now. So I would imagine months 7, 8, 9 are probably gonna be the same thing. I'm only thinking that once the university opens up here in the next really 2 months for the fall semester, that maybe special collections will have some sort of availability. And if so, I'm gonna take time off from work and I'm gonna make sure that I'm in there and spend a full day just gathering anything and everything that I can, and hopefully that'll carry me through the next period with all this stuff. So that's it for month 6, halfway into a year on this thing, and it's quite a low point in writing the book, and a little disappointing. So anyway, onward and upward. That's it for month 6. On to month 7. Fingers crossed. Bye now.